Star Wars Episode 9 is set to end the Skywalker saga and the sequel trilogy itself by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, we do know that J.J. Abrams and Chris will be bringing in tons of revelations, twists and turns, as well as surprises into this movie in order to shock the fans and make us look at both The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens in a totally different way. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film when it comes to some of the set leaks, the set designs, the concept art and storyboard descriptions, etc. One of which has all to do with a major hint and/or indicator that at some point in time in Episode 9, Luke Skywalker will be fully resurrected, at least temporarily. Specifically, a description of Luke Skywalker standing in front of what appears to be a wounded Rey on the ground, as if Luke is protecting her. The next describes Luke is facing Kylo Ren with his cross-guard lightsaber ignited. Luke is described to be pushing his hand forward as if he is using the Force. It's described that Luke here is convinced by the characters around him to be made of flesh and blood, with no blue hue and no transparency, appearing just as if he is alive and well, and able to fully interact with the mortal world. The last goes over Luke and Leia face to face, with Luke holding the Skywalker lightsaber, the lightsaber that once belonged to his father, Anakin Skywalker, appearing emotional, handing it back to Leia as the transparency and blue hue begins to return for Luke Skywalker. So I really want to go over a couple of parts about this that is very interesting for sure. Now, we do know that at the very end of this movie, I don't know if you guys heard about this just about yesterday, maybe 2 days ago, that J.J. Abrams will be delivering a huge revelation for the character of Luke at the very end of Episode 9. Now, this could very well be just that, is that Luke Skywalker is able to resurrect himself, at least temporarily. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the EU and Legends material, but in one of the novels, alright, in one of the books, Luke was actually able to return from the netherworld of the Force and come back alive, at least for a certain amount of time. So it could very well be that Luke is actually able to do this in the actual Disney canon of the Star Wars universe by JJ and crew. After all, we do know that JJ Abrams and Chris Terrio will be digging into the Legends material a lot for Episode 9 in order to capture a lot of the hardcore fans that are really into the books, the novels, the video games, you know, before Disney actually took over Lucasfilm. So when we look at the character of Luke Skywalker, we do know that J.J. Abrams has denied this before in the past and actually told Mark Hamill, you know, no, you're dead, get used to it all. Now, after all, J.J. Abrams has lied before many times in the past. Great example is Khan in Star Trek, so he could really say anything if he really wanted to. But if we're looking at exactly the best way possible to bring Luke Skywalker back into the equation here, and to really deliver quite the revelation at the very end of this movie, I would definitely have to say that this most definitely is a major hint and/or indicator that Luke Skywalker is able to resurrect himself, at least temporarily. You know, again, the mention of no blue hue, no transparency, and the characters around him convinced that he is made of flesh and blood in this scenario tells us that there is something going on here with the character of Luke Skywalker, and we have heard before in the past that J.J. Abrams will be doing something spectacular for the character of Luke. Now, I don't know if you guys heard about this either, but they're actually using de-aging technology on Mark Hamill for the character of Skywalker in Episode 9. So could it be possible that once he returns to the mortal world, he's actually able to appear differently than ever before, you know, in the sequel trilogy, without the beard and appearing younger, and actually made of flesh and blood? Now, this is taken directly from the original script for Return of the Jedi. Obi-Wan Kenobi was able to actually come back to life. Is it possible that J.J. Abrams is doing this partially, where he's going to bring Luke Skywalker back only temporarily, and then Luke will eventually slowly fade back into the netherworld of the Force, where he is yet again a Force ghost? Again, the mention of him appearing as if he is solid, no transparency, no blue hue, as if he is alive and well and flesh and blood to the character's point of view. Then, when he's facing Leia, actually holding Anakin's lightsaber, his father's, and getting all emotional, and the blue hue starts to come back as well as their transparency, I think it tells us that something is definitely going on here. here about Luke coming back to life in Episode 9 in J.J. Abrams' own unique way. Of course, I highly doubt that they're going to bring him back to life, fully, like how he was in The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens, etc. I highly doubt that they're going to do that, but it sounds like what they're trying to do is to bring him back in the moment in order to help his friends and family against Supreme Leader Ren, his nephew and the First Order, and the entire army as a whole, in order to save the galaxy. Now that's a huge possibility that maybe the wills come into fruition here in Episode 9 and allow Luke to have one shot against his nephew on either defeating him or bringing him back to the light side of the Force. We do know that there's a lot of things within the Star Wars universe that actually can be made possible, and if you look at the very ending of The Last Jedi, they can really retcon that if they really wanted to. After all, Luke's metallic hand never dropped down toward the rock. Sure, that was a mistake by Rian Johnson that has actually been admitted before, but they could really retcon that into something truly special for Episode 9. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.